My name is Rachel Blake, and I've been connected to and a fan of LCBH for many years. I spent several years working at LCBH in various capacities during the foreclosure crisis. And one of the things that was really frustrating was that there were speculators trying to take advantage of the situation and get buildings, especially multifamily buildings, for really cheaply. So what we decided to do was to actually buy the mortgage foreclosure data that companies were selling to the speculators to make money and use it to help tenants. So we were able to pull the data down and make maps for various neighborhoods, give them to neighborhood community groups, and they could reach out to the tenants and say, hey, your building might be in foreclosure. Let us know if you want to talk. We had some really good successes with some community organizations and with MTO actually working in the community to bring tenants to LCBH to get help before it became too late. And without those interventions, we saw early in the process and in other communities, tenants coming in saying, I got a notice that I have to be out next week or in 2 weeks, and they had no idea anything was happening. And having that time to try to negotiate, or if people did want to move, to have the time to figure out what they wanted to do made a huge, huge difference in people's lives. The foreclosure crisis was really talked about largely in terms of homeowners. But of course, there were other people who were also impacted. And in Chicago, there were a lot of smaller rental buildings, like 2 flats and 4 flats, that are owned by a lot of times smaller sort of mom and pop landlords. And what would happen is those owners would get the mortgage foreclosure notice, but the tenants had no clue. And that was a lot of people spread throughout the entire city. And the risk of destabilization of like housing loss for people made it really, really important to look at that issue, even though it wasn't the top of mind. It was really a response to sort of the housing market in Chicago and the conditions that people were living in. After I left Chicago, I rejoined the organization I'd worked for in Pennsylvania previously, which is Regional Housing Legal Services. It's a statewide legal services program focused on affordable housing. I've continued to work in the sort of policy area with a pretty strong emphasis on data and seeing what we can see from looking at the data or sharing the data where it can be shared usefully. And that's how I spend my days. So the time that I had at LCBH was actually really amazing and transformative for my career in lots of ways. I had already had strong interest in data and degrees that focused on data, but they were really a far stretch from most legal practice and most legal aid practice. So having the opportunity at LCBH and Mark's encouragement to go after the data, to find ways to use the data, really showed me that it could happen, and that I just had to sort of work sometimes against the grain to talk to other legal services programs to demonstrate how this could be useful. And so it's been hugely influential in how the rest of my career has worked out. I think it's incredibly important for there to be opportunities for young attorneys to have experiences, I would say especially in innovative and slightly out of the box legal services programs. I think that having spent my whole career focused on housing, I think it's especially important in the housing area because there are many, many ways to look at housing. There are case-by-case ways to look at housing, which I know LCBH does, and there are systemic approaches to housing, which LCBH also does. And being able as a young attorney to see both of those things and to see how they interact, I think gives you a much more robust understanding of the sort of systems that you're working in and the possibilities that you can bring to the work. I am so incredibly grateful and honored to be receiving the Sharon L. King Distinguished Alumni Award. And I am very, very, very disappointed that it wasn't possible for me to join you in Chicago. But I want to thank you so much for this recognition and for all the work that LCBH has been doing and will continue to do.
Your great work is in addressing issues that impact discrimination and social justice is very important. And we are proud that you are an alum of LCBH. Advice to young attorneys who are just starting their careers is to consider the words of American author and poet Maya Angelou, who said, "You can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing and then do them so well, people can't take their eyes off of you.